Danelle had always been a planner. Not just a I like to make lists kind of planner, but the kind who thrived on structure. Her life was carefully organized, each task meticulously documented in a series of color-coded folders and an overstuffed planner. She was the type of person who could tell you exactly where she'd be every day for the next month, down to the exact minute. Routine was her comfort zone, and within that structure, everything felt predictable. Even her relationship with Brian seemed like the epitome of stability. He was her rock, her anchor in the storm, the person she could rely on. Brian was everything she thought she wanted in a partner. He was charming and dependable, always saying the right thing at the right time. He knew when to make her laugh, when to comfort her, and when to push her to be better. They'd been together for years, their relationship a perfect match in her mind. They had plans for the future, for their wedding, for their life together. Danelle had meticulously planned every detail, from the venue to the guest list, and Brian was on board with every single decision. Everything felt right. But then, just 2 weeks before their wedding, Brian dropped the bombshell. "I need to find myself," he said, his voice calm, too calm, as though the words were rehearsed. "I think I need to go to Bali on my own." The shock hit Danelle like a physical blow. Her brain refused to process the words at first. "Find himself," she echoed, her voice cracking as she tried to hold back the panic rising in her chest. "Yeah, I've been feeling lost," Brian said, his eyes avoiding hers. "I need to figure things out. This isn't about you. It's about me." The words stung in a way that Danelle couldn't describe. She wanted to scream, to demand answers, to understand how the man she thought she knew could be capable of something so cold, so sudden. "You're leaving 2 weeks before the wedding?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "I know this is hard," Brian said, stepping closer, but his touch felt foreign now, like a stranger's. "But I can't marry you like this. I need time to figure out who I am." Danelle couldn't breathe. Her chest tightened, and she felt as though the floor had suddenly vanished beneath her. All of the plans they had made together, her perfectly ordered life, had just been ripped away in an instant. Brian, the man she had trusted, the one she thought she would grow old with, had suddenly become a stranger. The foundation she had built her world upon cracked and crumbled in front of her eyes. That night, she sat alone in their shared apartment, surrounded by wedding plans she'd spent months perfecting. The reality of it all hit her in waves. What had she done wrong? Was she not enough? Was this her fault? The pain was raw and sharp, an aching void that made her question everything she had believed in. How had she been so blind? How could she have misread everything? The hurt of betrayal sliced through her, and Danelle was left feeling lost, confused, and vulnerable. For the first time in years, she didn't know what came next. Her life had been so neatly planned out, and now, all of it had unraveled. The heartbreak was more than just the loss of Brian. It was the loss of her future, of the certainty she had relied on. She had built a life with him, one that now felt like a dream, a lie. How could she trust anyone again? How could she ever love again? The pain of Brian's departure clung to Danelle like a thick fog. She threw herself into her work, desperately trying to avoid the sinking feeling that crept up whenever she had a moment of silence. But nothing seemed to fill the empty space he'd left behind. The days blurred into one another, and soon, even her carefully curated routines couldn't shield her from the ache of betrayal. One particularly dark evening, Danelle found herself staring into her wine glass, willing the alcohol to drown out the thoughts that gnawed at her insides. She'd already polished off a bottle of tequila, a small but effective coping mechanism, and now she was deep into a solo karaoke session in her living room. She'd gone through several rounds of I Will Survive, but tonight, the song that truly spoke to her soul was Love Stinks by J. Giles Band. The lyrics seemed to echo her exact mood, raw, messy, and filled with a deep sense of irony. She grabbed the microphone like it was her lifeline, swaying dramatically in her living room as if she were performing for an invisible audience. "Love stinks," she screamed at the top of her lungs, completely off-key. Yeah, love stinks." The tears were flowing freely now, though it was unclear whether they were from the sheer absurdity of her performance or the heartbreak that was slowly consuming her. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand and hiccuped dramatically, suddenly struck with an idea. "I should go for a walk," she declared to no one in particular, her voice slurring with each word. "Yeah, get some fresh air. Maybe I'll find some deep wisdom in the world. Or maybe I'll just find more tequila." Her decision made, she staggered out of her apartment, the world around her swaying as though it had joined in on her drunken rendition of Love Stinks. The park was only a few blocks away, but getting there felt like a monumental achievement. The cool night air hit her face, sharp and cold, but it did nothing to shake the fog of tequila-induced haze that clouded her mind. The city park, usually peaceful and serene, now felt like a stage for her to perform her own version of tragic comedy. Her footsteps echoed across the empty path as she weaved back and forth, trying to keep her balance. She had no real destination in mind, just a vague sense that maybe, just maybe, the universe had some sort of answer hidden out here. And then, there it was. The fountain. It stood in the center of the park like an ancient monument, its marble surface glowing faintly under the soft light of fairy lights that twinkled around it. The water rippled in the breeze, and Danelle, in her drunken stupor, thought it looked magical. Or maybe it was just the tequila talking. She stumbled toward it, her vision swimming as she approached the edge. The fountain was beautiful, but all she could think about was how much her life had fallen apart. How much he had ruined everything. With a dramatic flourish, she dug into her pocket and pulled out a coin. It was a pathetic little gesture, one she had no real faith in, but in her current state, it felt like the most profound thing she could do. "I wish," she began, her voice slurring with emotion, "I wish I never fall in love again. Ever. And if I do, I wish I can't get, physical." She paused for a moment, squinting at the coin in her hand as if trying to read the fine print. "That way, no heartbreak. Ever." The words came out in a rush, and she tossed the coin into the fountain with all the grace of a toddler throwing spaghetti. It landed with a soft plop, and a faint shimmer rippled across the water's surface. Danelle blinked at the water, feeling oddly satisfied with her wish, though she wasn't entirely sure what she'd just wished for. Her head swam, and she let out a long, drawn-out hiccup. "I did it. I'm a genius. This is exactly what I needed," she muttered to herself, as if the fountain could hear her and was about to grant her some cosmic favor. She swayed on her feet, looking at the fountain one last time before turning to leave. "Goodbye, fountain. Thanks for fixing my life," she said, waving vaguely at the marble structure. Then, without another thought, she stumbled off into the night, her footsteps echoing in the empty park. She didn't know it yet, but she had just made a wish that would change everything. The next morning, Danelle woke up with a hangover that felt like it could swallow her whole. Her head was pounding, her mouth tasted like a mix of tequila and regret, and the memories of the previous night were hazy at best. "What happened last night?" she groaned, rubbing her temples. She shuffled into the kitchen, searching for water and a headache cure. As she opened the fridge, her eyes fell on a small coin she had somehow kept in her pocket. The sight of it brought back the fragmented memories of the fountain. "Did I wish for something?" she mumbled to herself. She tried to piece it together, but couldn't quite remember. Whatever it was, she figured it couldn't have been important. After all, what was the harm in a little drunken wish? It was probably nothing. But little did she know, her wish had already begun to work its magic, and the world was about to get a whole lot more complicated. The day after her drunken wish, Danelle woke up feeling like her head had been run over by a truck. She groaned, her mind foggy with a mix of tequila, regret, and fragmented memories of a marble fountain. She vaguely remembered making a wish, something about never falling in love again, but the details escaped her. Brushing it off as another drunken antic, she got ready for work, her movements sluggish and her heart still heavy with the ache of Brian's betrayal. Work was her refuge, a place where she could lose herself in tasks and deadlines. But today, even the comforting hum of her office couldn't shake the lingering fog. That's when Alex entered. Alex had been a constant presence in Danelle's life for years. They'd first met in high school, back when Danelle was the overachieving perfectionist and Alex was the shy, nerdy girl who always seemed to have her nose buried in a book or a laptop. Alex had been the quiet genius who helped others with their math homework but never asked for anything in return. She had braces back then, her oversized glasses often slipping down her nose, and her sense of humor was as dry as the school cafeteria's mystery meat. For Alex, Danelle had been more than just a classmate. She had been a beacon of light, a confident, vibrant force who seemed to have her life perfectly together. Alex had admired her from afar, watching as Danelle aced tests, led student council meetings, and made everything she touched seem effortless. It wasn't just admiration, though. Somewhere along the line, admiration had turned into a quiet, unspoken crush. But Alex had never acted on her feelings. How could she? Danelle had always been out of her league, not to mention firmly straight, or so Alex thought. So she had kept her feelings to herself, content to be the supportive friend in the background. Over the years, that quiet admiration had turned into a deep, genuine care. Alex had always been there for Danelle, even when Danelle didn't notice. When Brian left Danelle, Alex's heart ached for her. She hated seeing Danelle hurt, hated that she couldn't do more to ease her pain. But she knew better than to push. Instead, Alex showed her care in small, thoughtful ways. She brought Danelle her favorite coffee every morning, memorizing her complex order, a caramel latte with an extra shot, oat milk, and just a dash of cinnamon. She left little notes on Danelle's desk, funny doodles or motivational quotes designed to make her smile. She even stayed late at the office to help with projects Danelle was too distracted to finish. One evening, after overhearing Danelle mention that she hadn't unpacked her new apartment, Alex offered to help. "I'll bring snacks," she said casually, though she'd spent hours debating whether it would come across as too eager. Danelle, exhausted and overwhelmed, accepted without hesitation. That night, Alex showed up with a bag of takeout from Danelle's favorite Thai place, a six-pack of her preferred sparkling water, and a playlist of feel-good songs she'd curated just for the occasion. They spent the evening unpacking boxes, Danelle venting about Brian while Alex listened intently, occasionally chiming in with a joke to lighten the mood. "You know," Danelle said, pausing mid-rant, "you're really good at this whole being a decent human thing. Why can't more people be like you?" Alex's heart did a somersault, but she played it cool. "Because the world couldn't handle that much awesome," she quipped, earning a rare laugh from Danelle. What started as a one-time favor quickly turned into a nightly ritual. Alex would show up after work with takeout or groceries, sometimes even cooking dinner for Danelle when she was too tired to function. She helped Danelle organize her apartment, her sharp eye for detail turning the chaotic mess into a cozy, welcoming space. She never complained, never asked for anything in return. Her only goal was to make Danelle's life a little easier, a little brighter. Alex's quiet efforts didn't go unnoticed, though Danelle didn't fully grasp the depth of Alex's care. To her, Alex was just being a good friend, a reliable, kind, and slightly nerdy presence in her otherwise turbulent life. But to Alex, every small act of kindness was a way of saying, "I care about you," without actually saying the words. Unbeknownst to either of them, the wish Danelle had made at the fountain was about to turn their dynamic upside down. What had once been a comfortable friendship was on the verge of transforming into something far more complicated and far more magical. The nights of unpacking, eating takeout, and late-night venting became Danelle's sanctuary. Alex's presence was like a soothing balm, her quiet humor and genuine kindness filling the gaps left by heartbreak. Danelle began to notice the small, thoughtful things Alex did, not just the grand gestures, but the subtle ways she showed she cared. Alex had a way of making Danelle feel seen. It wasn't just about remembering her coffee order or knowing her favorite takeout spot. It was the way she listened, truly listened when Danelle talked. How she asked questions about Danelle's day and followed up on things most people forgot. It was in the way she noticed when Danelle was overwhelmed and would gently suggest taking a break, or the way she made sure the pantry was stocked with Danelle's favorite snacks. Danelle found herself looking forward to their evenings together more than she cared to admit. She started noticing little details about Alex. The way her eyes lit up when she talked about her favorite video games, the way her laugh had a soft, melodic quality that made Danelle's chest feel warm, the way she always made Danelle feel safe. Slowly, the walls around Danelle's heart began to crumble. It started innocently enough. One evening, they were watching a movie on Danelle's couch, a romantic comedy Alex had reluctantly agreed to because she knew Danelle needed a pick-me-up. As the movie played, Danelle felt her hand drift closer to Alex's on the couch. She wasn't sure why. Maybe it was the wine, or maybe it was the way Alex was laughing at the awkward, overly cheesy moments in the movie. Their hands brushed, and Danelle froze. Alex felt it too. Her heart skipped a beat, and she glanced at Danelle, who was staring at the screen like it held the secrets of the universe. Alex hesitated for a moment before letting her hand rest near Danelle's. Their fingers barely touched, but the contact sent a spark through both of them. Neither said anything, but as the movie continued, Danelle's hand slowly moved closer, her pinky curling around Alex's. Alex's breath hitched, but she didn't pull away. By the end of the movie, their hands were fully entwined, their fingers laced together in a quiet but powerful declaration of something neither of them was ready to name. As their evenings together continued, the hand-holding became a regular occurrence. One night, after a particularly exhausting day at work, Danelle flopped onto the couch and sighed heavily. Alex, who had already set up their usual movie night snacks, sat down beside her. "You okay?" Alex asked softly. "Just tired," Danelle murmured, leaning her head back and closing her eyes. "It's been a long day." Without thinking, Alex reached out and gently placed a hand on Danelle's shoulder. "Come here," she said, her voice hesitant but warm. Danelle opened her eyes, blinking at Alex, who looked just as surprised by her own words. But Danelle didn't hesitate. She scooted closer, resting her head on Alex's shoulder. Alex stiffened for a moment, her heart racing, but then she relaxed, letting Danelle settle against her. They stayed like that, the sound of the movie filling the silence, Danelle's breathing slowing as she melted into Alex's side. Alex didn't move a muscle, terrified of breaking the moment. But as the minutes passed, she let herself relax, her arms slowly wrapping around Danelle's shoulders. Danelle sighed contentedly, her hand resting on Alex's knee. It was the kind of intimacy that didn't need words, just the quiet comfort of being close to someone who made you feel safe. As much as they both felt the growing connection, neither Danelle nor Alex could bring themselves to make the first move. Danelle was still grappling with the remnants of her heartbreak and the unexpected feelings she had for Alex. Alex, on the other hand, was terrified of ruining what they already had. One evening, as they sat on the couch playing a co-op video game, their shoulders brushing occasionally, Danelle caught herself staring at Alex. Her heart thudded in her chest as she noticed the way Alex's face lit up when she scored a point, the way her laughter bubbled out so naturally. She wanted to say something, to do something, but the words caught in her throat. Alex felt it too. She could sense Danelle's gaze, and her hands faltered on the controller. She wanted to turn to Danelle, to confess everything she'd been feeling since high school, but the fear of rejection held her back. What if Danelle didn't feel the same? What if she ruined everything? Their mutual hesitation created a palpable tension, an unspoken dance of stolen glances and fleeting touches. Neither wanted to push too far, afraid of what might happen if they crossed that invisible line. The moment came one rainy evening. They were sitting by the window, watching the rain streak down the glass. Danelle had made tea, and Alex was telling a story about a disastrous coding project from work. As Alex laughed at her own joke, Danelle reached out, brushing a strand of hair from Alex's face. The gesture was so natural, so intimate, that it took both of them by surprise. Alex's laughter died in her throat as she turned to Danelle, their faces suddenly inches apart. The air between them crackled with electricity, their eyes locked in a silent question. Danelle leaned in slightly, her heart pounding so loudly she was sure Alex could hear it. Alex froze, her breath hitching, her lips parting as if to say something. But before anything could happen, the sound of a car alarm outside shattered the moment. They both jumped, laughing nervously as the tension dissipated. "Maybe the universe is trying to tell us something," Alex joked, her cheeks flushing. "Maybe," Danelle said, her voice soft, though she couldn't help but feel a pang of disappointment. Despite the interruptions and hesitations, their bond only grew stronger. Every touch, every shared laugh, every stolen glance felt like a step closer to something neither of them could deny. They weren't just friends anymore. They were two people slowly, tentatively falling in love, each afraid to take the leap, but unable to stop themselves from inching closer. It was messy, it was awkward, and it was perfect in its own way. Neither of them knew where it was heading, but for the first time in a long time, Danelle felt something she hadn't thought possible: hope. The universe has a twisted sense of humor. Or at least, that's what Danelle decided after their first attempt at a kiss ended in a literal blaze of glory. It was a quiet night. The lights were dim, soft music played in the background, and the scent of vanilla candles filled the room. Danelle and Alex sat on the couch, the closeness between them almost unbearable. Alex had been rambling nervously about a recent coding project, but her words trailed off as their eyes met. Danelle leaned in slightly, her heart pounding like a drum solo. Alex mirrored the motion, her breath hitching. Their faces were inches apart, and just as their lips were about to meet, beep, 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 the fire alarm blared, startling them both. Alex shot up so fast she knocked over a glass of water, soaking the carpet. Danelle, confused, looked around for the source of the commotion. That's when she saw it: Alex's jacket sleeve, smoldering where it had brushed against the candle flame. "Your arm," Danelle shrieked. Alex yelped, frantically patting the fabric. I'm fine," she assured, though the smell of burnt cotton suggested otherwise. The moment was gone, replaced by frantic fanning and a very sheepish Alex. Determined to reclaim their stolen kiss, they tried again a few days later. This time, Alex planned everything meticulously: no candles, no fire hazards, just a cozy night with hot cocoa and a feel-good movie. As the credits rolled, Danelle turned to Alex, her gaze soft and inviting. Alex swallowed hard, her heart doing acrobatics in her chest. She leaned in, her mind racing with every romantic cliché she'd ever seen in movies. But as fate would have it, she leaned in too enthusiastically. Their foreheads collided with a dull thunk. "Ow," Danelle yelped, pulling back and clutching her nose. "Oh my God, are you okay?" Alex panicked, reaching for her. Danelle waved her off, though her voice was muffled by her hands. "I'm fine. Just bleeding a little." Sure enough, a small trickle of blood was running down her nose. Alex grabbed tissues, apologizing profusely, while Danelle laughed through the pain. "Well," Danelle joked, "at least you didn't knock me unconscious." Their third attempt was interrupted by the most persistent force in the universe: a nosy neighbor. They had just leaned into each other, the moment perfect in its simplicity. No distractions, no chaos, just them. But before their lips could meet, there was a loud knock at the door. "Danelle, are you in there?" came the unmistakable voice of Mrs. Adler, Danelle's overly chatty neighbor. Danelle groaned. "Maybe if we stay quiet, she'll go away." But Mrs. Adler had the persistence of a bloodhound. "I brought you a housewarming plant," she called, knocking again. Reluctantly, Danelle got up to answer the door, leaving Alex sitting awkwardly on the couch. Mrs. Adler bustled in, carrying a massive fern and 1,000 questions. "Is this your roommate?" she asked, eyeing Alex. "No, she's... Do you two need anything? A lasagna? My nephew's a handyman if you need help with repairs." "Oh, and did you know there's a sale on at the garden centers?" By the time Mrs. Adler left, both Danelle and Alex were too drained to attempt another kiss. The absurdity reached new heights during their next two attempts. In one instance, Alex tried to impress Danelle by making homemade margaritas. She misjudged the blender's lid, sending a cascade of sticky, lime-scented chaos across the kitchen. Danelle laughed so hard, she nearly fell off her stool, though it did nothing for the mood. The parrot incident was even stranger. While visiting a pet cafe, Alex's idea, naturally, A rogue parrot decided Danelle's head was the perfect perch. Its squawking drew every eye in the room, and Danelle spent 10 minutes trying to shoo it away, while Alex laughed so hard she cried. By now, Danelle was starting to think she was cursed. "It's like the universe doesn't want us to kiss," she grumbled one evening. Alex, ever the optimist, shrugged. "Maybe it's just building suspense? You know, for dramatic effect." Danelle gave her a look. "This isn't a rom-com, Alex. This is my life." Alex smirked. "Well, your life is starting to look a lot like a rom-com." Despite the interruptions, their connection only deepened. Every failed attempt was followed by laughter, by quiet moments of reassurance, by the kind of comfort that spoke louder than words. If nothing else, their misadventures were bringing them closer together and making for some unforgettable stories. It was another game night at Danelle's apartment. Alex was hunched over the coffee table, her tongue poking out in concentration as she meticulously arranged her Scrabble tiles. Danelle, on the other hand, was flopped on the couch, nursing a glass of wine and silently brooding over their latest romantic mishap, an interrupted kiss courtesy of her overly enthusiastic dog deciding that was the perfect moment to leap onto their laps. "You know," Alex said, placing her tiles with a flourish, "if our love life were a video game, it'd be called Mission Impossible." Danelle groaned, throwing a pillow at her. "Thanks for the vote of confidence, Tom Cruise." Alex caught the pillow midair, grinning. "I'm just saying, at this rate, even Mario and Peach would be telling us to get it together." Danelle was about to retort when Alex added, almost absent-mindedly, "Maybe we're cursed. Like, you made a wish at a magic fountain or something." The words hit Danelle like a lightning bolt. She froze, her wine glass halfway to her lips, as her mind raced back to that tequila-fueled night. The fountain. The wish. The ridiculous words she'd slurred out. "Oh my God," Danelle whispered, her eyes wide. Alex looked up, her brow furrowing. "What?" Danelle set her wine down and stared at Alex. "I cursed us." Alex blinked. "What are you talking about?" Danelle leapt to her feet, pacing the room like a character in a courtroom drama. "That night. The night after Brian dumped me. I went to the park and there was this fountain and I was drunk, like really drunk, and I made a wish." "What kind of wish?" Alex asked, sitting up straighter, her curiosity piqued. Danelle groaned, running a hand through her hair. "I wish that I'd never fall in love again. And if I did, I wouldn't be able to, you know." She gestured vaguely, her cheeks turning red. "Do stuff." Alex stared at her, slack-jawed. "You cursed us?" she exclaimed, her voice a mix of disbelief and amusement. "I didn't think it would actually work," Danelle said defensively, throwing her arms up. "It's a fountain, not a genie in a lamp." Alex leaned back, crossing her arms with a smirk. "So let me get this straight. You drunkenly wished for eternal celibacy, and now the universe is cock-blocking us." Danelle groaned, collapsing back onto the couch. "When you say it like that, it sounds so much worse." Alex couldn't help but laugh. "Worse? Danelle, this is hilarious. You literally cursed yourself out of love because you were mad at Brian." "It's not funny," Danelle protested, though her lips twitched despite herself. "Do you know how hard it's been? Every time we try to kiss? To cuddle? To have a normal relationship." Alex interrupted, grinning. "Oh, I know. I've been there for all of it, remember? I've been collateral damage in this fountain fiasco." Danelle buried her face in her hands. "I'm such an idiot." Alex patted her on the shoulder. "Hey, don't be so hard on yourself. You might be an idiot, but you're my idiot." Danelle peeked at her, through her fingers, a small smile breaking through. "Thanks, I think." The next day, Danelle dragged Alex to meet her best friend, Claire, for advice. Claire, ever the blunt realist, listened to Danelle's story with an expression that oscillated between disbelief and barely contained laughter. "So let me get this straight," Claire said, leaning back in her chair at the cafe. "You drunkenly wished to never fall in love or get physical with anyone, and now the universe is playing Cupid's evil twin?" "That's the gist of it," Danelle muttered, stirring her coffee with unnecessary aggression. Claire burst out laughing, nearly spilling her drink. Oh my God, Danelle, this is classic you. Even your love life has spreadsheets and contingency plans. Except this time, the plan backfired spectacularly. It's not funny, Danelle said, glaring at her. It's a little funny, Alex chimed in, earning a side-eye from Danelle. Claire wiped away a tear of laughter. Okay, I'll be serious. Have you tried? I don't know, going back to the fountain and undoing the wish. Danelle blinked. You think that'll work? Claire shrugged. I mean, it's worth a shot. Worst case scenario, you look like a lunatic talking to a fountain. Best case scenario, you break the curse and finally get to kiss Alex without setting something on fire. Alex raised her hand. I vote for breaking the curse. My eyebrows are still recovering from the candle incident. That night, Danelle and Alex returned to the park, armed with a bag of coins and a mix of determination and embarrassment. The fountain was just as she remembered it, majestic and glowing softly under the fairy lights. Danelle hesitated, staring at the water. What if it doesn't work? Alex nudged her. What if it does? Taking a deep breath, Danelle fished a coin from her pocket and tossed it into the fountain. I wish, she said, her voice steady, to be able to love Alex completely. No interruptions, no accidents, no curse. She's my soulmate, and I don't want anything holding us back. The water shimmered, and a gentle breeze swept through the park. Alex raised an eyebrow. Did it work? Should we test it? Danelle rolled her eyes. What? Like we're testing a software patch. Alex smirked. Hey, I'm a developer. Testing is my love language. Danelle laughed, and before she could second-guess herself, she leaned in. Their lips met in a kiss that was warm, soft, and, most importantly, completely uninterrupted. As they pulled apart, Alex grinned. Well, looks like the patch was successful. Danelle groaned, but she couldn't stop smiling. You're such a nerd. And you love it, Alex said, pulling her close. And for once, the universe didn't intervene. The walk back to Danelle's apartment was filled with a giddy kind of silence. The air between them crackled with anticipation. Each glance they exchanged carrying a spark that hadn't been there before, or at least, not without a rogue parrot or fire alarm to extinguish it. When they reached her door, Danelle fumbled with her keys, her fingers trembling slightly. You'd think I'd be better at unlocking doors by now, she muttered, trying to keep her voice steady. Alex chuckled, stepping closer. It's not the door that's making you nervous. Danelle turned to her, raising an eyebrow. Oh, and you're the picture of calm, huh? Alex grinned, but her flushed cheeks betrayed her. I never said that. Finally, the door clicked open and they stepped inside. The apartment was dimly lit, the soft glow of a lamp casting warm shadows across the room. Danelle set her bag down, turning to face Alex, who was standing awkwardly near the door, her hands stuffed into her jacket pockets. Do you want some tea? Or water? Danelle asked, her voice higher-pitched than usual. Alex tilted her head, a playful smile tugging at her lips. Danelle, we just broke a curse, had our first kiss, and walked home in a haze of romantic tension. Do you really think I want you right now? Danelle laughed nervously. Fair point. Alex took a step closer, her gaze softening. But if you need tea to calm your nerves, I'll wait. Danelle shook her head, her lips curving into a smile. I think I'll survive. Without another word, Alex closed the gap between them, her hands gently cupping Danelle's face. Their second kiss was slower, deeper, and more assured than the first. Danelle melted into it, her hands finding their way to Alex's waist, pulling her closer. As the kiss deepened, Alex broke away just enough to murmur, no fire alarms, no interruptions. We're really doing this. Danelle laughed softly, resting her forehead against Alex's. Don't jinx it. They migrated to the couch, their movements unhurried and full of unspoken understanding. Danelle pulled Alex down beside her, curling into her side, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. This feels weirdly normal, Danelle admitted, her head resting on Alex's shoulder. Alex chuckled, running her fingers gently through Danelle's hair. Normal can be nice. After everything we've been through, I think we've earned it. They sat like that for a while, wrapped up in each other and the quiet of the room. Danelle traced lazy patterns on Alex's arm, her mind still marveling at how right this felt. "Do you remember in high school," Alex said suddenly, "when you made fun of me for carrying a lightsaber to school for Star Wars Day?" Danelle snorted. "Oh, come on. It was a toy lightsaber, and you were swinging it around in the cafeteria like a Jedi on a mission." Alex grinned. "You were the only one who laughed and didn't think I was completely weird. That's when I knew I liked you." Danelle tilted her head up to look at her. "You liked me all the way back then?" Alex shrugged, a blush creeping up her neck. "Yeah. I just didn't think I had a chance. You were always dating guys, and I was just the nerdy friend." Danelle leaned up, pressing a soft kiss to Alex's jaw. "Well, joke's on past me, because the nerdy friend turned out to be my soulmate." Alex beamed, her heart practically glowing. "I'm holding you to that." Eventually, the couch became too cramped for their closeness, and their shared glances seemed to silently agree on the next move. Without a word, Danelle led Alex to her bedroom, their fingers brushing together in a tentative, electric touch. The bedroom felt different tonight. The soft light of the bedside lamp bathed the room in a warm, golden glow, and the faint scent of lavender lingered from a candle Danelle had lit earlier. The bed, with its rumpled quilt and inviting pillows, seemed to beckon them. Danelle hesitated at the doorway, her hand lingering on the knob as she turned to Alex. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes filled with a mix of excitement and nervousness. Alex stepped closer, her voice low and reassuring. "Hey, we don't have to do anything you're not ready for. We can just be here, together." Danelle met Alex's gaze, her lips curving into a soft smile. "I know. It's not that I'm scared. It's just, I've never felt this way before. Like I can't get enough of you, and I don't want to mess this up." Alex reached out, gently brushing a strand of hair from Danelle's face. "You could mess this up if you tried. I've waited years for this moment, Danelle. I'm not going anywhere." The sincerity in Alex's voice melted Danelle's remaining nerves. She stepped into the room, pulling Alex with her, their hands intertwined. They sat on the edge of the bed, facing each other. The silence wasn't awkward. It was filled with unspoken promises and the sound of their steady breaths. Danelle was the first to move, reaching out to trace her fingers along Alex's jawline. "You're so beautiful," she whispered, her voice filled with wonder. Alex laughed softly, a blush creeping up her neck. "Says the woman who could make a potato sack look like a designer gown." Danelle chuckled, leaning in to press a kiss to Alex's cheek. "Flattery will get you everywhere." Alex grinned, pulling Danelle closer. "Good. Because I don't plan on stopping anytime soon." Their lips met again, the kiss deepening as they allowed themselves to get lost in the moment. Alex's hands slid to Danelle's waist, holding her gently but firmly, as if she was afraid she might disappear. Danelle responded by threading her fingers through Alex's hair, pulling her closer. Each kiss was a conversation, a shared vulnerability that spoke louder than words ever could. They shifted onto the bed, lying side by side. Their touches were slow and exploratory, as if they were learning a new language with each other's bodies. Danelle's fingers brushed over Alex's collarbone, eliciting a soft sigh. Alex's hands moved to trace the curve of Danelle's back, her touch both comforting and electrifying. Between kisses, they paused to laugh and share quiet confessions. "Do you know how many times I wanted to kiss you during our late-night unpacking sessions?" Alex murmured against Danelle's lips. Danelle grinned, her hands sliding down Alex's arms. "Probably as many times as I wanted to kiss you, but was too scared to admit it." Alex pulled back slightly, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "You? Scared? The woman who tackled a spider with a frying pan." "That was a life-or-death situation," Danelle quipped, her voice light. This is different. You matter more than any spider." "Well," Alex said, her tone playful, "we're definitely making up for lost time now." As the night wore on, they found themselves tangled in each other's arms, their laughter fading into comfortable silence. Danelle rested her head on Alex's chest, listening to the steady rhythm of her heartbeat. "This feels too good to be real," Danelle whispered, her fingers drawing lazy patterns on Alex's shoulder. Alex kissed the top of her head, her voice soft. It's real, Danelle. And it's just the beginning. Danelle tilted her head up, meeting Alex's gaze. You really mean that? Every word, Alex replied, her expression serious. I'm all in. For you, for us, for whatever comes next. Danelle's heart swelled, and she leaned up to kiss Alex again, this time slower, savoring every second. When the sun streamed through the curtains the next morning, Danelle woke to find Alex still asleep beside her, her arm draped protectively over her waist. Danelle smiled, pressing a soft kiss to Alex's forehead. I guess the curse really is broken, she whispered to herself. Alex stirred, her eyes fluttering open. Morning, she mumbled, her voice groggy but full of warmth. Morning, Danelle replied, brushing a strand of hair from Alex's face. Alex grinned sleepily. So, does this mean I get breakfast in bed? Danelle laughed, swatting her playfully. Don't push your luck, Jedi. Alex pulled her closer, burying her face in Danelle's neck.
Fine.
But only because waking up like this is better than breakfast. Danelle's heart swelled, and she held Alex a little tighter. For the first time in a long time, everything felt exactly as it should be.